Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Early Edge. I will be your host for the day. My name is John Bucketsheimer, and today we've got a plethora of sports. We've got soccer. We've probably got other stuff, I guess, but that's not my job to tell you what that is. So let's go ahead and bring in the stars of our show and get things going.
Wait a minute. What was that, Jake? Buckets, are you the new host?
Unless if you've got a problem with it.
I got a problem with it. This must be some sort of April Fool's gimmick. I didn't know they were tossing to you at the front end of this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Early Edge. Happy Monday. We got the Final Four set, and we've got a Final Four right here. It's Buckets, it's Amags, it's Propstarz, and it's yours truly, Sia Nejad, a.k.a. the Counselor of Cash. Buckets, that was an okay intro, but what you forgot, unfortunately, was the recap screen. Let's take a look at how we did on Saturday. Let's see, a winning record here, 4-3. Now, don't forget my Houston Open tournament 3-ball carried over to Monday, of course, because it was a tournament bet. We cashed that plus 145 over Olsen and Cameron Davis. So that certainly helps the recap screen. A winning record, a winning day. After a couple, let's be honest, last week, a couple subpar days, well, greater than subpar. We have really rebounded a few days in a row here, liking seeing winning records. We got to do better than 4-3, folks. Buckets, I got to ask you, before we get to your pick, how did it feel to be in the host chair? Again, I didn't know. You must have talked to Jake beforehand. I didn't know they were tossing to you when the show started. So I was looking at you the whole time thinking I was going to be looking at the camera and everybody else.
Full disclosure, Sia, I forgot today was April 1st. Jake and I have been planning this for a while. Just so happened it fell on this day. But to be honest, I kind of hated it. I don't think I meant to be a host. I think I meant to be more of the comedic relief who hits a bunch of his tickets, and I'm fine with that.
Wow. Okay. Amags, Buckets thinks he's funny. He thinks he's comedic relief. I got to be honest, though. I am so excited. Like, we kind of buried the lead here with April Fools because I haven't been on an Early Edge show with you in quite some time. I'm so happy to have you back because it means we get you, we get Sniper, we get all kinds of baseball for the next, I don't even know how many months it is. What is it, like 5 months or so we get you?
Yeah, something like that. And hopefully longer if the Yankees stick around. And maybe I'll keep it on a little bit of a more serious note that my New York Yankees are 4-0 to start the season, just swept the Houston Astros. So usually I throw the hat on to match the pick, but today I had to rep the Yankee hat. Respect to them. And Juan Soto, potential MVP. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, hey, Max, let's relax. We're 4 games into the season. Let me ask you, Proppy, before I get to you and we get to Buckets picks, Buckets, let me ask you this. I don't know if you get this reference. Dean Goodwell says Buckets is the Kramer of Early Edge. Do you know who Kramer is?
I know it's Seinfeld, but the last time you asked us to do our Seinfeld ranking, I couldn't name a single character. So I know he's in Seinfeld. That's all I got for you, though.
Okay, FYI, it's kind of a gimme there. Seinfeld is one of the characters of Seinfeld.
Oh.
Boom, you got one in the bank right there. Proppy, I got to ask how you're doing because we got NBA going on. We got props. Speaking of long MLB season, we got a long NBA playoff season that we're on the cusp of. So we got a ton of NBA. And now that we're about to push aside college basketball, you got to feel like you're back in like the chair where people are really paying attention with March Madness starting to come to a close.
Good morning, Sia. I am doing great. Great to see Amags back. Great to see Buckets in the hosting chair momentarily. That was awesome. I'm fired up. Sia, NBA back in full swing, getting ready for the NBA playoffs. If you avoid the NBA regular season, which I can understand a little bit, the playoffs are a totally different story. We see teams going 100% all out. It's really tremendous basketball once we reach that stage of the season. I also do want to mention, Sia, I will be on the Pick 6 podcast talking NFL today, NFL draft props as well. I'll also be on this Friday. We did a show last Friday as well here at the Early Edge, breaking down all the various NFL draft props. And I do want to also mention that I believe sometime within the next 24 hours, MLB props will be going live on the site. So if you are a SportsLine subscriber, you will be able to get Amags props, my props. I won't be putting MLB props out for probably maybe a month or so, but I will definitely be tailing Amags props up on the site. I'm sure a Sniper will have some up there as well. Very, very exciting if you're a SportsLine subscriber. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
All right, Mark Buckholt says Amags is that dude. That is true. The other dude, it's Buckets. Buckets, I got to admit, it was a pretty good intro. We'll polish some stuff up in case I'm out. But either way, we got to finally get to some picks. I know there's some people in the chat that are like, all right, enough with the salutations. Let's get some picks. You got two soccer. Sorry for the big word. I
Thank
know,
you.
Buckets. I'm sorry. Okay. If you're listening on the podcast, shame on you. You should be watching this and you should be hitting the like button, by the way. Buckets, you got two picks for us in soccer. What you got?
I don't know why that word threw me off so much. Salutations, everyone. Like, I don't see, we're very different people. And I think if I ever hosted, it would be night and day between us, but that's okay. That's not a bad thing. I'm not here for my hosting. I'm here for my Norwegian soccer picks, baby. Let's talk about a big matchup between Rosenborg taking on Sandefjord. And there's no way I said that one wrong or right. So I apologize to our Norwegian viewers. The Norway Elite Serien starts up again this week. This is the first match day of matches, which is always a bit tricky to bet on teams when they haven't played competitively for a couple months. But I'm looking at a Rosenborg side taking on a Sandefjord side, and I'm looking at this both teams to score at minus 130. If this was a midseason match, I would tell you all to put multiple units on this bet because these are two teams that last season were the absolute kings of both teams to score. And I think we're getting a softer line because it is this first match day. So be careful here, but both teams to score, even in a first week matchup like this, is something you have to take whenever you see either of these teams playing, especially when they're playing each other. So that's going to be our first pick, and that starts in an hour. So get that in right away. And then we're going to one that we all know. We're going to Italy's Serie A and the matchup between US Lecce and AS Roma. And ever since Daniel De Rossi took over this Roma side has become, honestly, really good. They're fighting for a top 4 spot, and they're a very diverse team that can play different tactics here. This is a team that can get into a slugfest and beat you 5-2, or as we saw against Sassuolo last match day, they can play for this KG 1-0. So normally, while I'd rather play the team total here, I'm keeping this to what I think is a safer pick. I'm taking Roma on the money line at minus 120. Again, Roma fighting for a top 4 spot, and Lecce have won only 2 times since December of last year. I think Lecce are outclassed here through and through.
All right, so Buckets, those are great picks, but I'm lost in the chat because your P.O. Box thing, gimmick, whatever it was that you did, like there's always an interesting question in the chat. So this one is from Chris Kish. He says, Buckets, what are the images on that red mug, which I believe is over your right shoulder? What are those images?
It's Happy St. Totteringham's Day,
of course,
which is a reference to the matchup between, I think this is bad because I'm the soccer guy. I think it is a reference to when Arsenal gets to the point to where Tottenham Hotspurs can no longer pass them on the table in a specific season. That's what that's called. I could be wrong, but yeah, that was a new addition here recently.
All right. We have so many new. Go ahead, Max.
See you real quick. Buckets. Let me know if it's up there. I had sent Buckets a signed Jorge Soler card. Is it up somewhere on there? I'll be upset if it isn't.
Oh, damn. Okay. No, it is not. It's not up there. I still have it. It's just not on the shelf. If Amags, if we need it on the shelf, I can make that happen.
Shelf.
Yeah.
The signed Jorge Soler card. Signed.
Yeah, I know.
It's your favorite player.
But I do have 3 bottles of hot sauce up on the shelf, if that does anything for you.
All right. Well, good news. We're going to have image adjustments tomorrow that you can see different things you can appreciate, and maybe a Jorge Soler home run prop from Buckets. Buckets, extremely disrespectful. Okay. If you want to take Bucket soccer bets or any of the bets in the chat, I see Big Cheesy and a bunch of others putting bets in the chat. You can go to BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you will receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's EDGE, EDGE. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get to some more picks. NBA, MLB, maybe some picks in the chat. I see you, Bradley Jacobs. I bet you have already put a pick in the chat as well. Before we get to any of those picks, let's take a break and hear a message from our partners.
The best couch potatoes come from Pluto TV country.
And these taters, they like all sorts of different things.
Survivor Channel, Ink Master Channel.
If it's got a spaceship in it, I'm probably watching it.
3 channels dedicated to CSI.
Whatever mood you're in, it's going to be easy watching.
Okay, if I saw this correctly, by the way, I'm so lost in the chat. You guys are amazing. You guys and girls are absolutely amazing. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. It looks like Bradley Jacobs put a couple of soccer plays in the chat, like right when the show started, maybe 12, 13 minutes ago. I know a lot of you were in here before the show starts. And he says, both of my plays I just put in the chat just had goals. Hope you got them in. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention, not just to us, but to the chat as well. Chris Kish, I know you put in a lot of bets as well. Nathan Pike, you've got some Caitlin Clark props. I just love all the activity. All right, I'm going to the NBA. I don't bet a lot of NBA here. I want to target the Suns, and normally I'm targeting against the Suns. If you know me at all, you know, listen, if not that I had their win total under, I didn't bet any futures when it came to the NBA, but I have not been on the Suns. I don't like their roster makeup. I don't like what they gave away to get the alleged superstars. I mean, I guess they are superstars, but one of which not exactly necessarily in his prime. However, I do like the Suns in this spot. We know on their road trip, they're on the back end of their road trip. I think this is game 5 of a 5-game road trip that they were on. They did get a couple of days off in between their last game and this one. And I do think they play up to their competition. We know they split against San Antonio, kind of embarrassing. We know they have a couple of bad losses lately, but they have some nice wins too. Denver was a game I watched. When the Suns played Denver, I was really impressed with how they got up for that game. Now, Denver didn't have Jamal Murray in that game. That's kind of a big deal. Well, the Pelicans, who the Suns play tonight at New Orleans, they still don't have Brandon Ingram. And I do think that matters. I do think the Suns not only play up to their competition at times, but I think they can tell when they've got a wounded team. That I think they know that they can take advantage of those teams. Brandon Ingram is a big piece. When you got Kevin Durant, you got Bradley Beal, you got Devin Booker, you got Grayson Allen. Like, listen, the Suns aren't a great team, but this is the type of situation, big game for both teams, by the way. This is a type of situation where I think they can feast upon. They're going to score too many points for the Pels. The Pels just don't have enough scoring power. I think they're the better team overall when they're healthy, but in this particular situation, I'm happy to take the Suns money line minus 112. All right, that's my NBA pick for the day. And now we got to tee up Amags, because Amags, you've got the Yankees hat on. I don't know. Do the Yankees even play today? I'm not even sure there's a Yankees pick here, but you do have a very good team. They do play. Okay, there's a lot of games today. I think there's 14. So yeah, they probably play. Amags, you got a couple of picks here. One's a prop and one is a team total, a very good team, mind you. I think you want to start with the prop. Tell us what your picks are.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the prop here, Sia. And we're going to go George Springer over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Go grab it on BetMGM. They actually had a little bit better odds this morning when I got it around minus 145. And it's really just when you look at Springer hitting atop the lineup, he's been over this number 3 out of 4 games. I don't love what Houston brings to the table pitching today. As a Yankee fan, right, I watched the last 4 games, and the bullpen not only has blown leads and given up games, but they also used their 2 best relievers yesterday for a good bit of time, and I believe even the game before that, actually. So you kind of look where Hader and Abreu would fall. I don't think they pitched today, and you're looking at the Blue Jays side here that I think can score a bunch of runs. Ronel Blanco, look, we have heard about guys having dad strength, right? Like they have a kid and then like the next day or week, whatever it is, they go out and they have a great start. Well, on the 26th of March, his wife had their second child. He goes out the next day, or maybe it was that night. He strikes out 10 guys in their final spring training tune-up, but it was against the AAA team for the Astros. So when I'm looking at these recent performances, they're good for Blanco, but one of the games he came in late. He faced a bunch of minor leaguers for 4 innings. That last game, he faced all minor leaguers. I'm not sure how telling those stats are for a guy that's really just been a 2-pitch pitcher. And both of those pitches, the fastball and the slider, Springer can crush. So I'm going to take Springer over 1.5 there. And then on to the team total. I'm bringing it to the nightcap all the way to the 10 o'clock game, at least for me on the East Coast. It's going to be that Dodgers first 7 team total over 3.5. I played it on DraftKings this morning. And when you look at the Dodgers, especially the lefties, I think that they can get to Keaton Winn here today. The Dodgers, when you have that team total like under 4 runs, they could put that up in an inning. And we even saw that yesterday, right? They break out for 3 runs right towards the end of the game. They pick up the win. This lineup is relentless. They are certainly going to find some kind of leaks in this San Fran bullpen. They've had a 9 ERA so far to start the season. I don't love where the bullpen's at, but I'm playing the first 7 so that I can hopefully avoid Camilo Doval in the bottom of the 9th if they happen to be down and hitting in the bottom of the 9th. So take that out of the equation. I think you go against Keaton Winn, who I don't think is very good, and the rest of the bullpen there. And I honestly think we get over the 3.5 pretty easily here. So give me those 2. I'll have some more as the games we get more info as throughout the day, but definitely like those 2 to start off.
Yeah, the Dodgers can explode at any given moment. Big Cheesy thinks they're going to explode early because he has Dodgers scoring first with the hammer emoji after that. I got a confession to make. So I bet the Dodgers last night. It was Sunday Night Baseball. There wasn't much on, right? And they were down 1-0. So it wasn't a pre-flop bet. They were down 1-0. And I was able to get them minus 115 money line. Well, they went down 4-0 pretty quick. So I was like, all right, that pick's done. And then all of a sudden 4-1, then 4-2, then 4-3, then 5-4. Go ahead, Amags. I was very happy about what ended up.
It's a great strategy. And it's actually something I wrote a note I should have brought up. Start betting that Dodgers money line when they get down in these games, right? Yeah. Throw a few bucks on it. I had him plus 240 last night. I threw a bonus on it, a boost. It was up to like plus 350 on the money line there. They come up and win the game. They will find any kind of leak in your bullpen at any time throughout the game. And really quick, I saw somebody mention the Braves game in here. It's the early game today, so usually I want to go to day baseball, but the weather in Chicago looks terrible. Rain, cold weather, wind blowing in. I think I'd probably look to the under in the Cubs game. I don't want to touch the Braves game. The Dodgers had the best weather that I could see today for an over, so that's why I went there.
Yeah, I will say this. We'll talk about it more later, maybe with some live shows, maybe on HQ a little bit, but certainly on the early edge as well. The live plays in baseball, keep in mind, you don't have to take the money line. Like, for example, when the Dodgers were down 4-0, you could have gotten the Dodgers plus 3.5 at like minus 110. So even if you don't think they're going to make a big comeback, and I'm using the Dodgers as an example because they were Sunday Night Baseball, but if you think they're going to score even just a couple of runs with 4, 5, 6 innings left, you can take the plus run number. It's probably, from a live standpoint, it's probably the most profitable thing I did last year across all sports was betting the live number, but not necessarily always the money line, taking the plus 2.5, plus 3.5, whatever runs are being offered at the book there. So just something to keep in mind with baseball. It makes baseball a lot more fun to watch too. If you don't have any pre-flop action, you can do it post-flop. By the way, Erica Taylor says KD and Zion points total over, I think she's saying. And Buckets, I have a question for you before we get to Propstarz here. Buckets, he says, I got Roma money line plus over 1.5 match total at plus 145 over the weekend. Do you like it?
That's my response. I do. I like it, but I specifically took the money line in case Roma plays for this 1-0 KG style again. Roma is capable of doing that. That being said, with the form Lecce is in right now, I don't hate that bet at all because it's plus 140. If that was closer to even money, minus 110, I would say stay away from it. But Lecce is not a solid enough defensive team to stop Roma from scoring if Roma wants to score. So you're kind of betting on what mindset is Roma in. Do they want to win by 4 today, or are they fine with the 1-0? And that's very hard to predict.
Fair enough. All right. And by the way, David Toxie says, Sia, did you cash any golf? Not much for me, but Jaeger top 5. So if you watch the early wedge and if you read my SportsLine article, I was 2 for 4, including a plus 145 on that 3-ball that you just saw on the screen. I was 2 for 4 on my matchup bets. Most of them were plus money. I think 3 of the 4 were plus money. I didn't finish well in the finishing positions. I believe I was 1 for 4, but again, those were all plus money as well. Didn't have Jaeger as an outright. So overall, it was a slight loser for last week. Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to have the Valero. We're going to have the early wedge with Patrick McDonald, of course, me and Eric Cohen. So that'll be really fun. And the Masters is next week. So we got a lot of golf coming up. All right. We got a lot of Propstarz coming up. But before we get there, let's take a quick break and hear a message from our partners.
2 big boys getting ready to play. Big being the operative word here. And here they come.
All right. We are back on the early edge, presented by BetMGM. All right, Propstarz, we've kept you quiet long enough. You've got a prop in this Atlanta game, which I found very interesting. The Atlanta game versus the Bulls, I was kind of toggling back and forth in terms of maybe selecting one of those teams as my bet tonight. And I was actually leaning towards Atlanta, but it ended up being a stay away. That's why the Suns ended up being an official pick for me. But you have a player prop in this game. Talk to us about it.
I do indeed. Yeah, I am fading point guard DeJounte Murray under 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists. This is a big number for Murray. Typically, you see his PRA line fluctuate between 37.5, maybe 39.5. Rarely do you see it go into the 40s, but here we are. And this is a tough matchup. The Chicago Bulls, not necessarily a good defense, but what they are good at, they play at a slow pace. And they kind of grind their opponents down with minimal possessions, but they're very good against opposing point guards. They allow the second fewest points to the position. So this is a tough spot for Murray. He's faced the Bulls twice already this season, struggled in both of those appearances, albeit different scenarios. Trae Young was active, I believe, in both of those games. We know Murray's the lead guard now, but this is a big number for him. I think it's a really solid spot to fade DeJounte Murray. Both these teams are going to be incentivized to win this game as well as they're vying for the play-in tournament. So, yeah, I like fading DeJounte Murray under 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
All right. Sox Nation says my Bulls will choke. I know you don't pick sides, Proppy, but this is a 2.5 point spread. I believe the Bulls on a back-to-back, if memory serves, they are the 2.5 point favorite. Would you lean towards the Hawks here? I mean, obviously it's a stay away because it's not a pick for you, but if you had to select one, the Bulls -2.5 or Atlanta +2.5, where would you go?
Honestly, some of it would hinge on whether or not Jalen Johnson suits up. He's questionable tonight for Atlanta. I think if he ends up suiting up, that would give Atlanta a significant boost. He's been a very good two-way forward for them. So, yeah, I would say it ultimately hinges on Johnson. Without Johnson, stay away. If Johnson suits up, slightly into the Hawks.
All right. And by the way, Dan Clark says, Amags, what's good? David Talk says, I love the golf show. And Chris Kish follows that up with Early Wedge has such a perfect cast. It's always hilarious, along with a ton of picks. Again, that's tomorrow at 7 o'clock, every single Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. It's me, Eric Cohen, and Patrick McDonald on the Early Wedge. All right, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, Buckets, before I hit up the recap screen here, any thoughts about me mentoring you as a host? Or do you want to just get off that block right now?
Is this you asking, or is someone in the chat asking you to mentor me?
Well, in case I want a day off, I was wondering maybe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as long as I don't have to talk about sports other than soccer, I'm down for it.
Perfect. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Buckets with Rosenborg, Sandefjord. I probably screwed that. Both teams to score -130 and Roma money line -120. I got the Suns money line -112. I did notice this line is moving a little bit, so you can probably get this money line at +100, as somebody pointed out in the chat. Propstarz DeJounte Murray under 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists at -118. And the Dodgers first 7. Team total over 3.5 at -130. Got a lot of picks in the chat concerning that game as well, so feel free to scroll up and take a look at that. And then, of course, George Springer over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs at -145. So good to have Amags back. So good to have this Final Four Monday crew that we had today. We're going to have so many picks the rest of the week. I mentioned the Early Wedge, but you know the Early Edge, how we do it, of course, every single day at 10 o'clock in the morning. Very excited for the week to come with MLB, with NHL, with NBA playoffs on the horizon. A lot to talk about, including, don't forget, we've got more Final Four stuff to talk about as well. But for the here and now, we got to get out of here. On behalf of Amags, on behalf of Propstarz, on behalf of host/analyst, John Eimer, a.k.a. Buckets, and of course, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. I am the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge, and we rest our case.